fall asleep to the entire story of the Crusades' history for sleep. Welcome! As the world outside gently quiets, we invite you to settle into a space of calm contemplation. Tonight, we embark on a tranquil exploration of a pivotal era in human history, the age of the Crusades. Close your eyes and allow your mind to drift back to a time of profound faith, vast journeys, and enduring legacies. In the quiet chambers of the past, amidst the tapestry of medieval Europe, there arose a movement of immense scale and profound consequence, known to history as the Crusades. Far from the simplistic narratives often drawn, these were not singular events, but a complex series of religious wars, driven by a fervent mix of spiritual zeal, political ambition, and economic opportunity, spanning over 2 centuries. Imagine, if you will, the turn of the first millennium. The year is 1095. Across the vast European continent, life unfolded beneath the shadow of the Church, a dominant force shaping daily existence from birth to burial. Whispers and pleas had reached the ears of Pope Urban II from the distant Byzantine Empire, a Christian bastion in the east, now facing increasing pressure from the Seljuk Turks. The holy city of Jerusalem, a sacred jewel to Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike, had fallen under Muslim control centuries prior, but pilgrimage routes had, at times, become fraught with difficulty. It was at the Council of Clermont, in a field in central France, that Pope Urban II delivered a sermon that would ignite a firestorm across the Christian world. His words, though only known through various second-hand accounts, were said to have been impassioned, painting vivid pictures of fellow Christians in the East suffering, and the desecration of holy sites. He offered not just spiritual absolution for sins to those who would journey to Jerusalem, but also the promise of adventure, land, and salvation. The response was immediate, a thunderous cry of a Deus vult. God wills it! Echoing across the gathering. This single declaration set into motion an unprecedented mobilization. From every corner of Europe, men, and even some women, took up the cross. They were a diverse multitude, devout knights seeking penance and glory, landless younger sons hoping for new domains, merchants envisioning lucrative trade routes, and the deeply faithful, yearning to touch the sacred soil of Christ's passion. Their motivations were a complex weave, impossible to categorize neatly, yet united by the overarching call to reclaim the Holy Land. Picture these early crusaders, leaving behind their homes and families, donning rough woolen leather, their shields emblazoned with the cross. Their journeys were arduous, fraught with peril. They traversed vast plains, dense forests, and treacherous mountains, their paths winding through unfamiliar lands. Many succumbed to hunger, disease, or banditry long before they ever sighted the walls of Constantinople, the magnificent capital of the Byzantine Empire, a city of astounding wealth and culture that often both awed and unnerved the more rustic Westerners. The First Crusade, largely a French-speaking endeavor, was marked by an astonishing, if brutal, success. After years of marching, besieging, and fighting, often against overwhelming odds and suffering immense losses, the Crusader armies arrived at the gates of Jerusalem in 1099. The siege was a desperate affair, marked by fierce determination and immense suffering on both sides. When the city finally fell, it did so amidst a horrifying massacre, a dark stain on the crusading ideal, which saw the indiscriminate slaughter of much of the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. With Jerusalem secured, the Crusaders established a series of Latin Christian states in the Levant, the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the Principality of Anjou, the County of Edessa, and the County of Tripoli. These Crusader states, or Trema, the land beyond the sea, were peculiar entities, European feudal enclaves planted in a wholly different cultural and religious landscape. Here, Latin Christians lived alongside and governed over a diverse population of Muslims, Eastern Christians, and Jews. Despite the initial violence, a fascinating, if sometimes uneasy, coexistence began to emerge. Arabic became a common language for diplomacy and trade, architectural styles blended, and even culinary traditions intermingled. Life in Outremer was a constant balancing act. These states were perpetually vulnerable, isolated by geography, often short on manpower, and surrounded by powerful Muslim emirates. To defend their new territories, new military orders were formed, combining monastic vows with military discipline. The Knights Templar, with their distinctive white mantles and red crosses, and the Knights Hospitaller, clad in black with white crosses, became legendary figures. They were formidable warriors, administrators of vast estates, and even early international bankers, their wealth and influence growing exponentially. Yet, the peace was always fragile. The call to crusade did not cease with the fall of Jerusalem. Over the next 2 centuries, subsequent crusades would be launched, each with varying degrees of success and often with entirely new motivations. The Second Crusade, called in response to the fall of the county of Edessa in 1144, saw prominent European monarchs like Louis VII of France and Conrad III of Germany lead armies to the east, only to meet with disastrous defeat at Damascus. The tide truly began to turn with the rise of Saladin, a brilliant Kurdish general and sultan who united much of the Muslim Near East. A figure of legendary chivalry and military prowess, Saladin launched a devastating campaign against the Crusader states, culminating in his decisive victory at the Battle of Hattin in 1187. This battle, fought under the scorching sun near the Sea of Galilee, effectively shattered the Crusader armies and opened the path for Saladin to retake Jerusalem. His capture of the Holy City, unlike the Latin conquest almost a century before, was conducted with remarkable restraint, allowing the Christian inhabitants to leave peacefully, a stark contrast that resonated even in the West. The fall of Jerusalem sparked outrage and galvanized Europe into the Third Crusade, perhaps the most famous of them all, bringing together 3 of the most powerful monarchs of the age, Frederick I Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire, Philip II Augustus of France, and the formidable Richard I the Lionheart of England. While Barbarossa tragically drowned en route, and Philip returned home early, Richard the Lionheart remained, leading a brilliant campaign. He engaged Saladin in a series of epic confrontations, including the Battle of Arsuf, demonstrating unparalleled military skill. Though Richard famously failed to recapture Jerusalem, he negotiated a treaty with Saladin that allowed Christian pilgrims safe access to the city, ensuring its continued spiritual significance for the West. As the centuries progressed, the crusading ideal began to wane, its purity diluted by political maneuvering and economic interests. The Fourth Crusade, launched in 1202, stands as a particularly poignant example of this shift. Intended for Egypt, it was diverted by Venetian influence and internal power struggles, eventually leading to the sack of Constantinople, the very Christian city whose pleas had sparked the First Crusade. This act of unimaginable destruction profoundly weakened the Byzantine Empire and irrevocably deepened the schism between Eastern and Western Christianity, a wound that would never fully heal. Later crusades continued to be launched, some aiming for Egypt, others for Tunisia, and even within Europe itself, against heretics or political rivals of the papacy. The Children's Crusade, a tragic and largely apocryphal tale, reflects the disillusionment and yearning for a return to the purity of faith that many felt had been lost. By the end of the 13th century, with the fall of Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold in the Levant, in 1291, the era of the Great Crusades to the Holy Land effectively came to an end. Yet, the legacy of the Crusades endures, echoing across time and cultures. They irrevocably altered the course of medieval history, reshaping the political map of Europe and the Near East. They fostered a sense of European identity, albeit one forged in conflict, and spurred significant advancements in shipbuilding, cartography, and siege warfare. The military orders, like the Templars, despite their eventual downfall, left an indelible mark. Culturally, the Crusades opened conduits for the exchange of knowledge, goods, and ideas between East and West, bringing Arabic scholarship and scientific advancements into Europe, enriching its own burgeoning intellectual life. However, the Crusades also left behind a complex and often painful legacy. They contributed to centuries of distrust and misunderstanding between Christian and Muslim worlds, fostering stereotypes that, in some ways, persist even today. They were a period of immense human suffering, fervent faith, and profound change, a testament to the powerful, often conflicting, forces that shape civilizations. As we gently conclude our journey through this captivating chapter of history, let us reflect not just on the clashes of armies and the ambitions of kings, but on the enduring human spirit, the quest for meaning, and the intricate dance of cultures that continues to define our world. May the whispers of these ancient tales guide you into a restful and peaceful slumber, as the echoes of the past softly fade into the quiet of the night.